Transport campaigners in England have welcomed a £2 cap on local bus fares from January to March next year. But they warn people are still struggling to get around as a result of cuts to services. Bus companies say many routes are no longer viable. They blame rising costs and changing travel habits because of the pandemic. Here's our transport correspondent Katie Austin.
About half of journeys on public transport in England are made on buses. Here in the northwest of Sheffield, though, people say there are no longer enough of them.
Rubbish up here. We've been really let down a hell of a lot. Before, when we used to have a reliable bus service, I could get out more, but now it makes it, you can't, you're stuck.
They've been non-existent, really, but it might sound silly, but they've put brand new bus shelters up and we've got no buses.
A couple of miles away, I met Graham, a local bus user and campaigner.
A lot of the routes have been cut, and the trouble is also that even if you look at the timetable for the reduced services, the buses often just don't turn up at all, and it leaves people being late for appointments. It means that people can't get to their church. It means a lot more people, will be using their cars, and it just means we're getting worse and worse pollution in our area.
A charity which calls for more and improved public transport says it's an issue across the country.
We hear from people almost on a daily basis to let us know that their bus service has been cut, that the route's been changed. That our research at Campaign for Transport showed that they've disappeared by a quarter the number of bus services in the last decade, and we are still seeing cuts. Unfortunately, there's a funding issue, and unless there is more funding for local bus services, we will see more cuts.
The provision of bus services has been declining for a number of years, and the pandemic has had a big impact on top of that. Passenger numbers still haven't recovered to what they were before, and despite emergency funding from the government over the past couple of years, some operators say a number of routes just aren't viable anymore. Their trade body insists operators try to thin out services rather than withdraw them, but sometimes there's no alternative.
Our costs are up about 25% through rising fuel prices, rising cost of living, which is feeding through into the amount we need to pay our drivers. At the same time, passenger numbers are down considerably.
Some areas, including Sheffield, have already brought in a £2 cap on the cost of single bus journeys. The Buses Minister said the same fare cap being available across most of England for 3 months from January would encourage more people back onto buses. He said the government had already put millions into supporting services.
What I want to see is a reliable service for the future, which people can know it's going to be there when it says it's going to be there, and it's also affordable for people to use. And that's why I think it's really important to try and have schemes to get that ridership back on.
The bus industry says it's trying to keep as many routes as possible, but challenges still lie ahead. Some passengers worry services they relied on have gone for good. Katie Austin, BBC News in Sheffield.